How's it going, everybody? We just got through watching the latest episode of The Skeleton Crew. I think it was actually episode 5. Let's see what everybody else thought about it. And I'm just going to bring them in because there's new settings on our little thing that we do. And I don't know where the actual little intro thing went, to be perfectly honest with you. It's under media assets
Assets,
now.
yeah.
Oh, so here we go.
StreamYard engine settings on us.
Literally in this thing like just a few days ago, and it didn't have, but it does now. So it is what it is. We're not even going to edit that part out. We're just going to keep going because that's how it works. Record things, even though we're not live and we could fix it. Hey, you know what? Have a little fun with it. But yes, talking about having a little fun with it. Let's talk about the episode on from us watching it together and having everybody's reactions and stuff. It seems like people did have fun with the episode. So Adelia, what did you think just broadly about the episode?
I thought this was a lot of fun. It was kind of like a heist episode, even though they weren't actually stealing anything. Because, the sneaking around, the feeding the dataries or the credits to the lady at the counter to try to get into the hotel and stuff like that. It reminded me of a heist movie. It was a lot of fun. Was having a lot of fun with the episode, but I really love the end when they end up in the treasure room and Jod basically turns on them now that he's got the coordinates to add at, and he basically has control over the droid. It's really interesting to see where this is going to go now. I'm very intrigued.
Two things off of what you said before we go to Brandi. So one, I would actually more relate it to, listen, I do not like the latest Indiana Jones movie. You know why? Because this episode of The Skeleton Crew had more Indiana Jonesy stuff than the whole entirety of that new film that came out. Like it was, the acid thing was kind of cool, whatever, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. But the second thing is I've said this a couple of times. I love it when a story does really good writing, makes sense, and doesn't have to make other characters or whatever look really dumb to do it. And the whole thing I was kind of worried about was like, you got Jod. He's obviously got this guy who was like the leader of some kind of pirate gang at one point and stuff like that. Like me being worried of them having the dumbest character down, make him like really stupid or just a walkover and stuff like that, a pushover, and that the kids are just running roughshod on just so they can do the story they want to tell. Nah, man, that moment that you just talked about was like a perfect example of he's been baiting them the whole time. He's been acting like he's with them and everything because he knew the rule about, hey, I can, like, basically as long as I have an audience, I can challenge her to be the captain and I'm going to win. And I can do that whenever I see fit. And he's known that the whole time. So he's played along. He's done his thing. So it makes him not only like credible as a danger, but also an intelligent person, which I thought was, and it didn't make the kids look dumb, right? Because I mean, they're kids. So like, they don't know pirate rules. So like, to me, it was just pretty good. But Brandi, what did you think? Did you enjoy this episode or where you at?
I knew you were going to get to me as soon as I took a bite of the cookie.
Man.
I'm sorry. This kind of felt Goonie-ish to me. That's what you said Indiana Jones, I felt Goonies, because when they went to go get the thing and there was booby traps set all over the place, that's kind of like Chester Copperpot when they went to the ship and he had all the different things set up, booby trap to go. And he almost fell down and they grabbed him. That was like Data when Data almost fell. So
I can definitely see both. There's multiple layers of the show, which is another thing I'm kind of digging and everything. So
yeah, and I get none of these references because I've never seen Indiana Jones or Goonies.
Wow. All right, guys. Well,
you're watching Goonies with me.
Looks like we're having an impromptu episode of therapy. But yeah,
I liked the episode. I thought it was I'm just skipping over what Adelia said because she's gonna watch Goonies with me. And
I mean, she should at least watch the first Indiana Jones movie as well. I ain't even saying watch.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want to make me watch these things, you could join our Ko-Fi page and pay us, and I will watch them. There you go.
Anyway, I paid. I'm making you watch it.
Okay. Okay.
We're watching the
As
Goonies.
long as it's streaming somewhere, I'll watch it.
I will find it. I will find it. But yeah, no, I liked the episode. I thought it was, interesting. We all knew he was a snake all along and he was gonna do something. We just knew it. We felt it. And when he challenged her, I'm the captain now. Like, I was like, oh, you little asshole. Excuse my language. He was. I love the kids. Their dynamic, like I've said the whole time, is just fun. Like I love their dynamic that they have together. We got the parents. We saw the parents in the beginning of the episode, so they are definitely. We're always wondering, like, what are the parents thinking? Like, are they looking for their kids? Like, what is going on? And we see that they're trying to get a signal out to them so they could find their way back to the barrier. And I
Yeah,
thought that was cool.
we did get the parents. I thought like what I was presumed to be, which I'm not like Sherlock Holmes or anything here. It wasn't like the biggest discovery of all time, but like I said when we were talking about the last episode, was like you could tell the way the dad was looking. He's thinking of some way to like
Mhm.
do something. He's got plans in the works, and we find out in this episode he does, but it's not just him. He's involved in
All
the
of them.
plan. They get the mother of Fern to actually join in on this episode because she's like a higher up person than them. They're just kind of workers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
Neil's
they're
mom's
getting
already
involved as well.
involved.
Mhm.
And I just love the way that like the father and stuff like looked, like these are people that really never had to like sneak around and do things like that. And then we have him in this thing like he obviously is spooked. He doesn't get away. He does like, you know what I'm saying? To me, this is another well-written spot because yeah, he looks goofy. Yeah, he looks nervous. Yeah, he looks like he's obviously doing something wrong because he's never had to do that living on a planet like this. And then when he does get caught, he almost gets away, but then like, he doesn't come up with some trickery way to like hide the thing that he has behind his back. He eventually gets caught. And the only way that he
Put it
doesn't
on
get
his
in
belt.
trouble is because obviously the robot takes her to like the supervisor, which happens to be part of the family group that's trying to find their kids, and she like shuts them down and everything else, which gets him out of trouble. But I thought that was like really good. Like he shouldn't be able to probably get away with something like this, right? He should probably get caught.
He could have hooped it in his belt in the back.
Right.
Could
But I
have, yeah.
mean, a person that's in the situation that he is never had to be involved in anything like that.
Mhm.
Wouldn't have thought about something like that. Wouldn't have thought about like looping it in their belt or whatever. He's just so damn nervous. Like he can't think of nothing but, oh my God, like I'm in trouble. Like, what's going to happen kind of situation.
Show me your both hands and we put it into it.
Because they are in like a sheltered place. Like all
Yeah.
these parents have even been that way, right? So it's not just these
Yeah.
kids. Like the parents has even been in like this sheltered environment where nothing really goes wrong. There's not like they really have to worry about anything like as far like people committing crimes or anything. It's almost like this planet and this place that they're in is pretty much sheltered from that.
Yeah, I was surprised that Neil's mom, I don't know her character name, but even had a device like that. Where did she get a device like that? How did she know that that device would allow him to bypass whatever he had to bypass to get the barrier access code? Like there were a lot of questions I had about that that they didn't answer, but maybe we'll get answers to that at some point in time. Maybe it came from KB's parents. We know KB's very into all the technology and engineering and stuff like that, so who knows? But I found that part really interesting.
Yeah, I will say this about the little device. To me, whenever they first pulled it out, I thought immediately my brain, for some reason, connected it to like a play school toy for a kid. I don't know. Maybe it's because the colors, because the wire was like green and
Maybe,
like, kind
yeah.
of bulky and stuff. But it was like I was like, "What the hell is that?" So I didn't love the look of the little device, but it is what it is. I don't care. Everything's going to be different and all that kind of good stuff. So it wasn't bad at all, period. But we get into, and I know when we watched the last episode, and I think it was French that come into our Discord, and he was talking about like what you and him was actually talking about what they're going to do with the robot the next episode. They just tied him up with some rope.
Mhm.
They tied him up with some rope to
That
a
rope
table.
did not last.
No,
That rope did not hold him
that's
for
2
long.
seconds.
Yeah.
As soon as they're like, "Oh, get up and do this," okay. I was like,
Yeah, I will say though, they should have had it like I was talking about for the last episode was like that I thought something they did smart in writing was have her trying to tell him like basically like she's the captain, so she's like overriding the thing. She was trying to say something as she's getting knocked over, which
Mhm.
made sense or whatever in that moment where SM33 is about to take him out. In this episode, I do think they probably should have did a little more with her, like basically doing something when he first gets waked up, like she's ready and prepared to like override this or whatever. And they really didn't
Well,
really have to do that.
from the sounds of it, KB did something to him to
True.
override
Yeah.
something in his memory, so that could be what caused that not to be necessary.
Yeah, they didn't show it too much, so I don't know. Like I didn't like
Yeah,
I
it was
didn't
just a
recognize that right
sentence.
off the bat. Yeah. So we had that going on, which is pretty cool because we get SM33 back. He's like he's slowly becoming one of my favorite droids of all time, not even gonna lie.
He's
Like
great.
his design, the voice actor does amazing.
Yeah,
But
Nick Frost is doing a great job.
yep, I didn't even know the name. I was gonna have to look him up afterwards because it was pretty good. But we do have a moment with Wim being kind of upset, and he kind of walks away. But you and you're like, well, why is he doing that? You know, because this whole thing he's wanting to go on this adventure. But I guess he's not seeing this as a true adventure, or he's learning that we're about to be able to go
homesick.
on. You think he's just straight up homesick?
He says he misses his dad and his mom, and obviously
Yeah,
we
his
know he
mom's not
misses
there no
his
more.
mom the whole time because his mom's not around anymore. But I could totally see him missing his dad. I mean, these kids are how old? They've never been away from their parents. Like I can totally see him like needing a moment because he's just not even just that they might be going home and the adventure coming to an end, but he misses his dad and he wants to be with his dad.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that, and I don't have no problem with it. I could see someone being like, well, he's so hyped up for adventure, but me, I'm just like, well, he's so hyped up for adventure when the adventure's happening. But then in a moment like that where you're just kind of chilling, telling stories or whatever, he starts to like think about the other stuff. He's not thinking about why they're actually doing something adventurous, if you see what I'm saying. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're in light speed, just sitting around. So like it would be the time for them to have that kind of moment.
Yeah.
Uh
I did like that we learned finally what this ship is and who the old captain of this ship was, and he's this legendary pirate who vanished when he was looking for Ad-Atten, but we know that's because he crashed on Ad-Atten, and SM33 knows the whole story, and since he's gotten his memories back from whatever KB did, was telling the kids all the stories, and I liked that Jod was just like in awe of what that ship is. The kids were like, so like
yeah, so yeah, it's pretty interesting. One thing I'll go ahead and knock out of the park is like everybody, because he's holding a lightsaber and they saw a picture with him, which we do see at the end of this episode. And because he's able to use the force a little bit, that doesn't make him a Jedi, people. Stop trying to make this guy Jedi. Man, he's like a pirate, but he has like Jedi capabilities. And if he would have been found young enough and whatnot and taught the correct way, he could have probably been a Jedi, but he wasn't. He's just a person that can manipulate the force. Like there's always been people out there in the galaxy that didn't get snatched up by the Republic or whatever and become all Jedis. Not everybody that uses the force is a Jedi or Sith. They could be.
Yep.
Now, I do not atone to the gray Jedi thing. I think you're either Jedi or Sith, but there's a lot of people out there that doesn't know. Like you could say those are two religions, opposite poles of a religion, right? And then there's a bunch of people that they're not part of the religion. So like they're just whatever they are and just be able to do a certain thing. So nobody's been trained, nobody's a Jedi, nobody's a Sith. He's just a guy that can manipulate the force.
Yeah, like I don't think he's tapping into the dark side of the force when he's like lifting up Wim's, story pad or whatever that thing is. But like that doesn't mean he's a Jedi either.
I will say that for one, I give this episode a lot of props because it is technically a kid show or whatever, but there were some I thought kick-ass scenes in this. you know, when they're going through the thing, and then the like cops or whatever you want to call them is like chasing them that one time, and the one guy notices there's a trap, and then he gets shot right in the chest, basically by one of the pirates, and then he gets sucked up into the spikes that you just saw. No, they don't show the blood or any of that, but you know what's going on, which is a creative way to do something like that in the show. The only criticism that I have for this episode is I wish they would have just went to a normal, or they would have acted like, I get why they tried to do it, because I guess it did bring a little bit of silliness to it, but the whole, I wish this planet would have just been, we got just a normal spa. Like, they tried to do the whole pleasure cruise thing where it's like an adult entertainment. And the only reason why I say I have a problem with that is like, there was no like scenes, like you don't have to be like extremely graphic. That's not what I'm saying. But there wasn't even scenes that hinted at what it was, right? You didn't see like a Twi'lek or whatever doing like some dance, and you could have like had her clothed up, obviously, and everything, but you could still sort of hint that, oh, this is a place that kids shouldn't be. Or you could have had even like a Twi'lek or another person, like, you know, kind of like maybe doing some drinks, and it's like guy and girl, whatever, like hugging on each other or something, you know, that make it obvious, like, oh, this is what it is. And they only kind of made the jokes, but they didn't have anything like, and I'll probably rewatch this episode because I thoroughly enjoyed it, but like even anything in the background, you know what I'm saying, that kind of looked like, oh, okay, so we're at Pleasure Palace over here. Because like I said, they really didn't do a whole lot with it, except for kind of make the joke of like, no kids allowed, this is, you know, where this is, you know what we do here, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I just think they could have made it a regular spa. But like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. So. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode.
I did too.
Now we gotta see. Now the kids, they escaped. Now we gotta see how they're gonna go through all this and away from that. I wonder if they're gonna run into that person that they made friends with, that big thing.
Oh,
maybe again the Cthulhu reference is what I guess they were trying to make.
Yeah, that's what they were trying to make. Yeah.
Like I didn't mind it. What was his damn name? Like
Cthulhulops, something like that.
Something like that. But like, yeah, it was basically
Cthulhulops.
Yeah, Cthulhulops. It was basically in this thing. We also met another character that ends up doing the call in that brings the other pirates in to try to get them. And the name was Paco?
Pocket. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Pocket.
Interesting design there because of the super white face with the super white eyes. We had a member of our team actually talk about how scared they were when they saw this particular character. I didn't get scared, but I was just like, I thought it was an interesting design. I thought it was kind of cool, to be honest with you.
She was played by Kelly MacDonald, who is the voice of Merida in Brave.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah. She's also been in a bunch of other stuff, but that's what I know her from. So.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you one thing though that I was thinking about when the episode was going on, when he was first like coming off the ship and he was introducing himself, and then he said like talking about the wise ones or whatever they were called,
wise elders.
Yeah, exactly. So like I didn't hear the plural on that at first, and I was so afraid they were going to do that stupid thing where a couple of them are like on top of each other's shoulders and they're trying to be like an adult.
Oh yeah.
Kind of. I'm so glad they didn't do that. I mean, it is Star Wars, for instance. So like all these people are different size. All these aliens and stuff are all different sizes and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
What do y'all think? Well, I was going to say just real quick. What do y'all think about Jude Law's like actual like acting and being part of the show so far? I mean, we talked about it early on when he first showed up, but I really enjoyed what he's doing like in this role, how he's acting.
I think he's doing really good. I really enjoyed his turn in this episode from, friendly Jod to, oh, I'm going to challenge to be the captain because I've got what I want now that I know that, and we haven't talked about this yet, Aden is the last of the Old Republic mints. That's how they had the Old Republic credits in mint condition. They're still making that money there.
Mm-hmm.
I liked his turn because it was menacing, but it wasn't like super sinister. But at the same time, it was unsettling.
He was like, here would be my thing, and I think this is another point to the great writing so far of the show overall. I haven't loved, cause like everybody, like when we did the last week's, like there was things I did not like about that episode. To me, that's the weakest episode of the bunch, and just felt everything was rushed. This episode, even though they had action and things were moving, there wasn't like these main characters that we're with, right? You can do that now because we've already learned about their characters, a little bit of their backstory, a little bit about who they are, unlike some of the new characters they brought in the last episode. And in this episode, the new characters were just like a lady that's getting a little money because she's trying to hide the fact that he might not need to be there or whatever. Kind of, what was you, a receptionist, right? So like that, no big deal. She didn't play this like huge role in the story or whatever. So everything was still a little bit more contained. And it was still like, I mean, this episode, we got to the place and stuff started happening. So it went by fast, but in a different way. But I would say the writing is really good because I got the feeling when I'm watching him, even though he's being more serious, is like, I don't know if she could have called his bluff. Like, I'm thinking that might happen where I don't think he would have been able to really do something to her. Like, I think the whole just like him trying to scare her enough to say it. And like he wanted her to say it the first time just so he wouldn't have to do anything else. And then it was almost like, damn, now I gotta, put a knife up to her throat. It was almost like, him just doing it to get her to say it so that he can just do what he's got to do. Like, I really don't think he would have hurt any of the 4 kids. I don't
think he would have been there.
So I think she could have called his bluff in that moment. And, but they did a good job. Another thing about the writing, they did a good job in these episodes so far of showing that even though he's done a couple of things that help them out, it's not been enough to like gain their trust. They're always not trusting him. So like her as a character is different from me watching the show. Her as a character, and especially being like a kid still, is like, I don't trust him anymore. He would kill me. So like I have to say it now. She didn't want to, but she said it.
Yeah.
But I thought it went super well.
I agree. We also learned some more of his aliases in this episode because Pocket knew him by a different name than any of the kids knew, and
yeah, I ain't keeping up with none of his names.
Yeah, it's just like, what is his real name? Because they had a different version of Jod as one of his announced aliases in this episode by the security guards calling out to him.
Listen,
like
they came up with so many names for him, Adelia, that one of the fake names they did was, well, look, they came out with so many names for him that they one of the ones they came up with was basically just his name said in a different way.
Yeah.
Instead of Judd, it's Jod. We're gonna do Jod over here.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I'm really curious what his actual name is. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and one of the things we were talking about, we started recording with French, like I was saying in the Discord and everything, as we just got through watching it together, is so they have the James Mangold Old Republic movie coming out. It's supposed to be Dawn of the Jedi. It's supposed to be talking about the very beginnings of the Jedi and stuff like that. And James Mangold is someone, everything he does isn't gold, but man, he's hit a lot of bangers out there. 4V Ferrari is just an example, but like he did the Wolverine that everybody thinks is like one of the most amazing comic book films of all time. So like I'm trustworthy, and I want him to knock it out of the park so hard, because if he were to do a movie in the Old Republic that is super badass, like, to me, that opens the door. Oh, finally, Disney will actually do maybe some cool things using the Old Republic, which would be super interesting. And so many fans are of that era of Star Wars that they haven't touched this whole time, which is just so stupid to me for you to own the property and not even get to that point yet. So hopefully we have a chance. And like his movie is going to be that startup thing. It's going to be like Iron Man 1. If that movie would have been a turd, we wouldn't have got all the other stuff. So like I'm hoping his movie's a straight up like one of the best Star Wars films I've ever seen, just so they'll touch that stuff. But saying all that is to say they do mention the Old Republic here. this planet's from the Old Republic. The Old Republic got mentioned now. So one of the things that I was thinking about is, does any of this possibly, if they have any of the script and stuff written already for that movie that James Mangold's supposed to be working on, or if any idea that they have, like maybe this planet plays a role, maybe like even a character. What, it's so far in the future though, there's no way these characters would be involved, but like the planet or something like that would be involved possibly in this movie, just to have some kind of loose connection or whatnot.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. Because then there'd be something familiar from this series in something that would be basically entirely new in the Old Republic to a lot of people. That'd be a cool way to sort of like backdoor something into something that's set so far in the past.
Yeah, so Brandi, what's your thoughts about like, Old Republic and everything else in Star Wars?
I have no idea what it is because I'm not into Star Wars like you, so I have no idea. So this is all new to me. So I'm like, okay. Obviously these kids didn't know these things were mint stuff because we're like, his dad gave him a couple and said, "Here's your lunch money," and people and they're like, "Oh my god, this is like worth a lot," and these kids are just using it for lunch money. Like,
I know you didn't know crap. That's why I asked this.
I know you did it on purpose.
But with that being said, man, we pretty much went over the whole episode, so we'll go down the row here.
He's not even looking.
Yeah, we'll go down the row here and talk about any last thoughts that you may have, and then give it a score, man. Go ahead.
I'd give this episode an 8, and I'm at about an 8 on the series as a whole so far. I'm thoroughly enjoying this, way more than I actually thought I would, because I tend to get very annoyed watching things with children now that I'm no longer young, because most of the acting isn't great all the time, but these kids are doing fantastic, and I look forward to watching the rest of this series.
I do agree with the kids part, man. Like, at the end of this episode, when Jude Law's character gets a little, because I ain't even gonna try to name, I don't even know what his name is in the show anymore. But whenever he gets, kind of like not really mad, but he gets aggressive, like they're not trying to like, the older girl that Fern that is called the captain now does try to like do one move on him where she tries to get this thing and use as a weapon real quick and try to surprise him, and he like dodges it and gets out of the way. Actually, he don't even dodge it. He uses the force to stop her from being able to use it. But with that being said, like the other kids wasn't trying to be like, oh, I'm going to beat him up. They were all scared. They're acting like kids should act, like in the situation, which makes it way better. But all right, Brandi, what you got?
They're from a place that they don't really fight, so it's not.
I mean, that's true too, right?
Yeah, it's a peaceful place. I like the series. I'm at an 8 with the whole series. This episode was 7.5, 8 for me. So I'm liking this. I have the same as Adelia. I'm really enjoying it. I like the kids. The kids acting, like I said, they work well together. I like them. Jude Law, he's okay for me. He's just meh. Just meh.
But not yet. I agree on most of y'all's assessment. I was more down on this last week's episode than you guys were. Like, I probably had my lowest score of the series, which is around like a 5.5 or 6 or whatnot. But like, if I were to average out these grades through so far, these episodes that we've seen, which is what, this was the 5th one or 4th one?
5th.
All right, so the 5th episode. So the 4th episode was my worst episode so far. First 3 was pretty good. I'm at like a B+ on the show just because of one episode. Now, here's what I'm going to caveat with that. This grade can go up because as these episodes go, when I look and judge a season, if there's like one episode I wasn't that fond of out of like a whole 8 episodes, like I don't even almost recognize that one off episode that I didn't really care as much about.
So you're like at an 8 too.
Yeah, around that. Yeah. Around I'm around that area, and like I said, it could go even higher because if these next episodes we get 6, 7, and 8 are just as good as this episode, maybe even better, and then the mysteries that we find out even makes that fill in a little better. Like, I'm gonna forget that episode 4 was one I didn't care as much about. Like, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
Who cares? Because all the other episodes I thoroughly enjoyed. It's just it's a fun show. I do think the Star Wars brand's been hit a little bit. So like unfortunately, because I was actually interested, I was like, man, I really do like this show. So I was actually paying attention. I don't think this episode's been in the top 10 in streaming. They got things out there that grade some of this stuff yet. Hasn't even hit that chart. And back in the day, or say 10 years ago, even before, or even not as long as that ago, something Star Wars came out, it would have automatically been in the number 1, 2 spot, even if it wasn't that good, just because everybody be watching it. So right now, man, I just think Disney needs to put out good quality stuff like this right here. Make sure their writing's on there, make sure they're telling a good story first and foremost, and go from there. Because this is what you get. Like, I see, and this is a weird part. It's one of those things where I look at a company and I go, 2 of the best shows so far. Because if this show like lands good, I would almost say this show might even be better than Mandalorian season 1 and 2's loved by a lot of people, and I actually agree with them. I really like it, but this, I don't know if it can beat season 1 of Mandalorian, but it definitely can beat maybe even possibly season 2, maybe even season 1 if this show like finishes out. I thoroughly like this show, and the sad part about it is Andor and this show is 2 of the best written shows they've done so far for Star Wars, and it's probably the 2 things that they were like, Andor, not a huge character. We don't have these huge like hopes or whatever for it. We're probably not, and they didn't pay attention to it, and they let the guy do a story, right? Tony Gilroy do a story. Then in here, I think, oh, this doesn't involve any main characters. There's not really going to be any like main plot points. As a story set in its own little thing. We're going to let Watts do his job. And that's what's crazy to me is I think the things that they tried to sniff around in and do that as far as the company, Lucasfilm or whatever, has been kind of, I think, messing up some of the other stuff. So
the less connected to the main Skywalker saga, the better the series have been.
Yeah, and like I said, it's almost like the company's like, well, we'll just let them do what they want to. Who cares?
Yeah,
it's not our biggest project we got going on. We got other things to try to figure out, kind of thing. And I might be looking too far into it. I might be wrong, but it just seems like that. Well, that's all I got. And unless y'all have something else, we're about to get out of here.
This week's episode is directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who directed one of my favorite episodes of The Mandalorian. So I'm excited for that one.
She's done good. Bryce Dallas Howard, her dad,
Ron Howard.
Yeah, Ron Howard. Wasn't that Opie?
Opie.
It was.
Yeah. They've actually done pretty good. I do not hate the Solo
I don't
movie
hate
like
Solo
some people
either.
do. Like, and he came in to fix it. He didn't like to actually make the whole movie, and I think he did a damn good job. I remember watching that movie with my friend, and there's like a weird kind of part that happens at the beginning, and me and him kind of look at each other like with cautious looks, but we didn't do that the rest of the movie. We actually enjoyed it. It was like a fun little ride to go on. We knew it wasn't going to be. It's about expectations, whatever. And I think maybe that's what this show is giving me right here is like, after some of the stuff we've just watched through Star Wars, I was just hoping for something good, man. I just wanted something to be good. And this wasn't the thing I was looking forward to, but now I'm looking forward to it, watching the episodes when they come out. It's a big step forward.
I'm laughing that Justin just like made himself really old by saying Opie. He could have said Happy Days, anything, Opie.
Nah, bro, that show was still being rerun. Shit, I was probably like a teenager. That show's like way before my time, but they were showing episodes still on TV. Hell, when I was a teenager.
I've seen way more of the Andy Griffith Show than I have ever seen of Happy Days. So, Opie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all black and white. That was back when it had to be black and white. It wasn't even a stylistic choice. It was because that's all they had.
I had to watch a lot of Happy Days, and I had to watch a lot of Andy Griffith because my daddy. My daddy loved him. My daddy was a TV guy.
All right. Well, that being said, may the force be with you guys. And until next time, peace. And if you can, grab a cup of coffee.
Happy holidays.
Join
ko-fi.com/LGR_network.
Pretty sure it's in the description below, whatnot.
It is.
Give us your comments and stuff. What do you think about the episode and the Skeleton Crew and all that? And I hope it's one of those things to where as time passes and people's like, nah, man, this show's actually kind of good. Like people will actually go spend their time and watch it because it's
Tell
better
us which
than
one
what.
of the characters is your favorite.
Yeah, Brandi, what's your favorite character?
I like KB and Neil.
Neil. It has to be Neil.
Mine's at some 33, man. He literally might surpass R2D2 and C3PO. Okay,
That's lofty praise.
Yes, I mean, because dude, his design, like they knocked it out of the park. They knocked it out of the park on this.
I like the rat.
That's pretty good.
The little rat that lives in his eye. Yeah.
Yep. All right, for real this time. Bye bye.